Now then, we are the Don't Tell Show. We review and make gritty social realist films. If that sounds like your sort of thing, we put out a new video every Monday. Hit subscribe and we'll see you there. So this was a mad year, wasn't it? Cinemas closed, streaming on the rise. I'm fine with that. It's the future. Fuck garlic bread. Let's get straight to it. The best 10 social realist films of 2020 that I saw. Lynn Lucy is the story of two lifelong friends who find their friendship put to the test after a tragic incident. Ex-Little worker Roxanne Scrimshaw's quiet, subdued performance really brings the feels and the reals to this social realist piece, as we see her social sidekick slowly emerging from the shadow of her slightly prettier friend and finding herself in her own skin finally. It's gritty, it's grim, and it shines a light on the sort of characters who are usually left in the dark. The woman who ran, or rather the woman who talked a lot and said very little. And I mean that in a good way. This is the story of a woman who takes time out from her husband to visit old friends and see if the grass is in fact greener on the other side. That's it, that's the plot. It sounds quite boring, but it's actually really absorbing because, as I said, she never actually says what she's doing or what she's after. So you get these long static shots and these conversations that seem very banal and very normal, but there's little clues hidden in there that you start engaging in, you start looking at the little details, every little word, thinking, what is it that she's after? Why is she doing this and what's going on? It draws you into every question and inquiry and forces you to find the substance underneath the surface. A beautifully observed minimalist masterpiece. Vitalina Varelli. A lady from Cape Verde travels through Lisbon, retracing and uncovering the secret illicit life of her deceased husband. This was my first experience with Pedro Costa, and I've got to say it's completely unique. It's social realist, but every frame looks like a painting. It's poetic and arty, but it never loses touch with the heart of the story. It's a slow burn snapshot of a real person's life, difficult and engaging in all the right ways. It takes you to an unfamiliar world and it completely immerses you in it. This is true escapism to me. I don't need explosions or cars driving backwards, I need new feelings and new experiences, and that's what I got with this film. Lovers Rock takes us to a house party in West London in the early 80s. A very specific type of party, a reggae dub party. It takes us for a night out in this party in a semi-documentary style, detailing intimate moments and non-verbal communications which are both unique and universal. Honestly though, some of the long takes and the repetition in the scene at times sort of changed me from a happy party goer to annoyed neighbour. I mean, at one point they play the same song 3 times. I don't know why. That some of that stuff didn't quite work for me, but I applaud the film for going there and trying something new and trying to create a truly immersive and realistic situation. And for being romantic without being slushy. It's a film that you can feel emotionally and physically. The looks, the smells, the tastes, the sounds, specifically the sounds. It's an experience. The regulars to this channel, all 2 of you, will know that I love any film that blends sort of documentary and fiction. So it's no surprise that I love this one. It follows the patrons of a dive bar on the last day of its closing as they party together for one last time, taking in their views, traumas, philosophies and connections which will soon be severed as they reach what seems like the end of an era for them. It's not actually a documentary, but it's as close to one as you can get. A film about nothing and everything at the same time. A heavy for an Irish mob tries to create a perfect start for his son while balancing the moral quandaries of his violent life. Cosmo Jarvis is a revelation. He reminded me of Richard Harris in This Sporting Life in here. He has that sort of bulky, confused, inarticulate, masculine character just down pat, whether it's an Irish heavy in this or a northern decorator in Nocturnal. He's bringing something to the screen that more polished performances would never bring. It's something that somehow raw, explosive and violent, but tender at the same time. I don't know how he's doing it, but I love it. This film also has one of the best, oh shit, tension moments I've seen in quite a long time. Definitely a great mix of thriller and kitchen sink film, calm with horses. Amador, a local arsonist, is released from prison and tries to get on with living his life, but as the title suggests, that's not too easy. So like the Pedro Costa film, this is another sort of escapism film. It's the cinematography in the film is gorgeous. It's sort of long sort of tracking shots of very little going on as we just watch this man try to keep his head down, get on with his life in this sort of area that I would never normally visit. It's very slow, it's very realistic, it's very little happens, but it's incredibly emotionally engaging because of the inner turmoil in this character, who's just trying to take what life throws at him and keep moving. Rocks follows a period in the life of a teenage girl in London, struggling to take care of her young son after her mother abandons them. And on top of that, the problems that every teenage girl experiences. So many of these sort of high school based UK productions try really hard to make the scenes seem realistic by forcing in humour, having people be thick and misunderstand things, and force this banter in where something happens and the entire class laughs because they're all a part of it. And it's so refreshing to see something that doesn't do that, that keeps everything sort of minimal and natural. Everyone's just getting on with their lives and they'll come in and out of each other's lives. And the humour's very natural, everything comes across very natural. Those performances that cover the whole range of human emotions allow you to experience that story as them and not just as a message. So it never loses the heart and it never loses the hope. It's just a great social realist film. Murmur, a lonely woman with a drink problem, saves a dog from being put down at the shelter that she's been forced to do community service in after being caught drink driving. Like Lynn and Lucy, this film uses a non-actor in the lead, and it brings so much more than, like I said about Cosmo Jarvis as well, with his performance that isn't as polished as something else. There's something raw and intimate and real to it. The casting of non-actors does the same thing. There's bits where you can just have a close-up of her face and you can see what she's been through and stuff, and you don't get that from Hollywood actors, because when you look at their face you see specific diets and rhinoplasty and health regimes, and if they start to show any signs of stress, then they just get sacked off because they have to look perfect to be on screen. But when you cast non-actors, you get so much more than that. You see all the pain and all the life and all the living that they've done to get to this point, and they don't even need to act really to get that across. It's just like the importance of faces, like in silent cinema. You can just sit there looking at this woman as she drinks her wine alone. You can see what she's going through, and you can see life slowly slipping away as she's reaching out for just one last bit of warmth before she goes. This film was probably it's easily the most emotional experience I had this year watching a film. Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always follows a pair of girls from rural Pennsylvania as they travel to New York to get an abortion. It's a deceptively simple film that perfectly follows the creed of show, don't tell filmmaking to tell an intimate, emotional story, which again has an important subject matter at the centre of it, but never brings that too far forward. It becomes too didactic or loses the heart of this story. You can check out my full review here. It was my favourite film of the year. It blew me away. Just great filmmaking. So that's it for 2020 in the social realism sphere. There's many that I've missed probably because they're not available yet. There's some that didn't quite make the list. I'll just throw a few up here. Some I'm still looking forward to seeing. Is there anything that I've missed? Is there anything you disagree with? Tell me in the comments below. We are the Don't Tell Show. I'll be back next Monday. I'll see you there. Oh, and have an happy New Year.